When a woman experiences intimacy, it is not simply a physical act, it is the exchange of something far deeper. It is the transfer of energy, emotions, trust, and vulnerability. When a man releases inside a woman, it carries with it a weight that goes beyond the moment itself. For many women, this moment can ignite a storm of emotions. Sometimes joy, sometimes anxiety, sometimes even confusion, because the act is layered with meaning. It can feel like a bond has been sealed, like something has been given and received that cannot easily be undone. Women often internalize this energy more deeply than men realize, because for them the body and the mind are so closely intertwined. Where a man may see only the conclusion of a physical experience, a woman feels the vibration of that act within her being. It becomes part of her inner world, shaping how she sees herself and how she perceives the connection with her partner. This is why energy transfer is so powerful. It is not about biology alone, it is about the silent messages that travel beneath the surface, messages of commitment, respect, security, or in some cases fear and doubt. For some women, this experience can trigger feelings of closeness, of being cherished, of being connected at the deepest level. There is a sense of oneness, a merging that makes her feel valuable, chosen, and safe. She interprets this as love being expressed through the physical act, and that love fills her with warmth, reassurance, and peace. She begins to feel a greater sense of belonging and sees herself as aligned with her partner on an emotional and spiritual level. But for other women, the very same act can create an entirely different reaction. Instead of security, it may stir up anxiety. Instead of peace, it may awaken doubt. If the trust in the relationship is not solid, if the communication is lacking, if there is a hidden fear about consequences or intentions, then this act becomes a heavy burden rather than a shared moment of joy. She may question whether it was wise, whether she is truly respected, whether her body and her emotions have been honored. This is why understanding the energetic weight of intimacy is so important. A woman often feels the energy of her partner in her body long after the moment has passed. It lingers in her thoughts, her emotions, her decisions, sometimes even in her physical state. That release is not just about the body. It represents the presence of another person entering her inner space. It is a symbolic exchange, a giving of self, and women are naturally more receptive to this energy. They carry it within, and what they carry has the power to either empower them or diminish them. This is not something visible on the outside. It is not always spoken of. But internally, it shapes how she feels when she looks in the mirror. See how she moves through her day, how she relates to her own dreams and goals. When intimacy is guided by respect, love, and intention, the energy a woman receives can strengthen her spirit. She feels seen, valued, uplifted. She walks differently, speaks differently, and carries herself with quiet confidence because her inner world has been nurtured by the positive energy she absorbed. But when intimacy is careless, rushed, or disconnected, it can do the opposite. It can leave her questioning herself, feeling empty, feeling used, or even doubting her worth. That energy becomes a shadow she carries, sometimes without fully understanding why she feels the way she does. This is why the concept of energy transfer is so critical. It explains why two women, in two different circumstances, can have completely opposite emotional experiences from the same act. Every release carries with it unspoken messages. To a woman, it can mean I trust you, I choose you, I respect you. Or it can mean I used you, I disregarded you, I took what I wanted without considering you. The body absorbs the message before the mind even fully processes it. This is why so many women describe a deep shift in their emotions after intimacy. It is not just hormones, it is not just biology, it is the energy signature that has been left within them. That energy, whether positive or negative, shapes how they feel about themselves and their future. It influences their confidence, their mood, even the way they approach opportunities in life. When a woman feels empowered by the energy she receives, she is more likely to step into her purpose. To pursue her goals, to radiate positivity. When she feels disempowered, she can fall into patterns of doubt, guilt, fear, or self-sabotage. The energy transfer is invisible, but its effects are real. It is felt in the heart, it echoes in the mind, and it settles into the body. Some women carry this energy for years, long after the moment has passed. It becomes a part of their story, shaping their beliefs about love, trust, and destiny. And this is why awareness is so essential, because when a woman understands what she is truly experiencing, she can begin to reclaim control over the energy she allows inside of her. The inner dialogue of a woman after intimacy is one of the most powerful, yet invisible experiences she goes through. It is the quiet conversation she has with herself. The thoughts that spiral in her mind when the room falls silent and there is no one around to reassure her. These thoughts can either be filled with comfort and warmth, or they can be heavy with uncertainty and fear. When a man releases inside a woman, the act does not end there. It awakens an entire chain of emotions that play out within her. She begins to ask herself questions. Does he love me? Was I just a moment of desire, or am I truly valued? Will this decision change my life forever? These questions form an inner dialogue that can elevate her or crush her spirit, depending on the foundation of trust and connection in the relationship. For many women, this inner voice is shaped by the meaning they attach to intimacy. If they believe that the act represents love, loyalty, and commitment, then the inner dialogue becomes nurturing. They reassure themselves that they are cherished, that the bond is strong, that the vulnerability they offered was met with respect. This creates an internal state of peace. She can replay the experience in her mind and feel comforted, knowing that her trust was not misplaced. But if the act carries uncertainty, if the man's intentions are unclear, if there is doubt about whether he truly cares, then the inner dialogue becomes restless. Thoughts of fear, shame, or regret can invade her mind. She may ask herself whether she gave too much, whether she was respected, whether she will be left to deal with the emotional consequences alone. This is why the inner dialogue is so significant. It is not just about what happens in the moment of intimacy, but about what happens afterward. When the silence begins and she is left with her own thoughts. Her inner dialogue determines whether she feels empowered or diminished. Even if the man says nothing, her mind begins to interpret his actions, his tone, his body language, and even his silence. If she senses indifference or lack of care, the inner voice often whispers doubts that grow louder over time. She may replay the moment, searching for clues, overanalyzing every detail, and creating stories in her head that may or may not be true. This mental replay can become exhausting, yet it is part of how many women process the emotions tied to intimacy. The inner dialogue is also heavily influenced by her past experiences. If she has been hurt, abandoned, or betrayed before, then her inner voice may lean toward fear and mistrust. Even if the man's intentions are genuine, her mind might resist believing it fully. She may remind herself of past disappointments, telling herself not to expect too much, not to let her guard down completely. On the other hand, if she has experienced love and respect in the past, her inner dialogue may naturally lean toward trust and hope. The stories she tells herself in those moments are shaped by everything she has lived through, every joy and every wound. When a woman's inner dialogue is positive, it has a powerful effect on her emotional and spiritual state. She feels confident, worthy and secure. She tells herself that she is loved, that she is chosen, that her vulnerability was not in vain. This inner voice uplifts her, reminding her of her value and strengthening her belief in the relationship. She can rest in the comfort that she is safe and cared for. But when her inner dialogue is negative, the opposite occurs. She may tell herself that she is not enough, that she was used, that she made a mistake. These thoughts can spiral into self-doubt, guilt, or even resentment. The mind becomes a battlefield, and instead of peace, she is left wrestling with insecurities that drain her energy and weaken her sense of self. This is why the inner dialogue cannot be underestimated. It is a silent force that shapes her reality. Even if no one else hears it, it dictates how she feels, how she acts, and how she carries herself in the days and weeks after intimacy. It can be a source of empowerment or a source of suffering. It can make her glow with joy or weigh her down with invisible chains. The most profound part is that this dialogue happens within her, often unspoken. Yet it is as real as any physical experience. She can be smiling on the outside while questioning everything on the inside. She can appear confident while secretly doubting herself. This private conversation with herself becomes the lens through which she views the relationship, her partner, and even her own future. The inner dialogue also reveals how deeply women connect their emotions to intimacy. While a man may see the act as separate from emotional attachment, many women see it as inseparable. The dialogue in her mind reflects this merging of the physical and the emotional. It is not only about what happened, but about what it means. Meaning is everything, and her inner voice will always search for it. That is why this dialogue can be so intense. It is her way of making sense of her vulnerability, of protecting her heart, of deciding whether to trust or to retreat. It is her inner compass, guiding her toward clarity or pushing her into confusion. And until that dialogue is at peace, she cannot fully rest within herself. Negative feelings are one of the most natural outcomes a woman can experience after intimacy. Yet they are also the most misunderstood. When a woman allows a man into her deepest space, she is not only opening her body, but also her heart, her trust, and her vulnerability. If that intimacy is not aligned with clarity, respect, and emotional safety, then it can create waves of heaviness that linger long after the act is over. These negative feelings can come in many forms: guilt, fear, regret, anxiety, doubt, even a sense of being used or unworthy. They do not always appear immediately. Sometimes they emerge hours or even days later, creeping into her thoughts when she is alone, when her mind replays the moment in silence. The act of intimacy becomes more than just a memory. It transforms into a weight she carries within her, a voice that reminds her that something is unsettled. For some women, the negative feelings are tied to societal expectations or personal values. If she has been taught that intimacy is only meant for love, commitment, or marriage, then stepping outside those boundaries can leave her feeling conflicted. Even if she desired the moment, a part of her may whisper that she has betrayed herself, that she has crossed a line she cannot go back from. This creates a battle within, where desire collides with conditioning and pleasure collides with guilt. For other women, the negative emotions are linked not to values but to uncertainty. If the man does not clearly express his intentions, if she feels unsure about where the relationship stands, then the intimacy feels incomplete. Her heart longs for reassurance, yet her mind questions whether she will receive it. This gap between what she desires and what she actually experiences is often the birthplace of her negative feelings. Fear is another common weight carried after intimacy. A woman may worry about the physical consequences, pregnancy, health risks, but even more so about the emotional consequences. She may wonder if she will be abandoned, if her trust will be broken, if the man will still respect her once the moment has passed. Fear of rejection. See, fear of being seen as less valuable, fear of being forgotten after giving so much of herself. These fears create shadows in her mind that grow larger with silence. The lack of communication or reassurance often magnifies these fears, because in the absence of clarity, the mind fills in the blanks with worst-case scenarios. Regret is another powerful negative emotion that can arise. A woman may replay the moment and ask herself if she acted too quickly, if she gave away something precious without enough thought, if she allowed emotions to drive her rather than wisdom. This regret can be subtle, a quiet voice that lingers in the background, or it can be loud, overwhelming her with shame and self-criticism. Regret is often rooted not in the act itself, but in the meaning she attaches to it afterward. If she believes that she gave too much without receiving enough in return, regret takes hold and begins to color her perception of the entire experience. The cycle of negative feelings is powerful because it does not stay confined to intimacy alone. Once it is activated, it begins to spread into other areas of life. See, a woman may carry that guilt or regret into her work, her friendships, her dreams, even her self-image. She may find herself questioning her worth, doubting her decisions, or holding herself back from opportunities because she feels undeserving. The energy of those negative emotions becomes a lens through which she views everything else, and over time, it can quietly reshape the course of her destiny. Many women do not realize that their hesitation in life, their lack of confidence, their reluctance to step into their full power, is often tied to unresolved feelings rooted in moments of intimacy. Yet it is important to understand that these negative feelings, as heavy as they may seem, are not permanent. They are signals, indicators that something within her is asking for attention, healing, and clarity. The danger lies not in experiencing the feelings, but in allowing them to take root and define her. When negative emotions are left unchecked, they can grow into destructive beliefs. I am not worthy. I am always used. I am not enough. These beliefs then influence her future decisions, attracting more of the same experiences that confirm the story she tells herself. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where the energy she carries draws similar energy back into her life. Breaking the cycle begins with awareness. When a woman can recognize that the guilt, fear, or regret she feels is not who she is, but simply what she is experiencing, she takes the first step toward freedom. The negative emotions are temporary clouds, not permanent truths. They are real in the moment, but they do not have to define her identity. By observing them instead of becoming them, she begins to reclaim power. But without this awareness, the emotions settle into her subconscious, shaping her choices in ways she may never fully realize. This is why the cycle of negative feelings is so dangerous. It operates silently, often undetected, while steering the direction of her life. Awareness and choice are two of the most powerful forces a woman can awaken within herself after intimacy. Because they determine how she interprets her experience and what she does with the emotions that follow. The truth is that feelings will always arise, some positive, some negative, some confusing. But what matters most is the conscious recognition of those feelings and the decision about how to respond to them. When a woman becomes aware of the energy she has absorbed and the dialogue that follows within her, she gains the ability to shape her internal state rather than allowing it to shape her in silence. Awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, what felt overwhelming or unclear begins to reveal itself in ways that can be understood and directed. The first layer of awareness is simply noticing what she feels. Too often, women are conditioned to suppress or ignore their emotions, to push them aside in order to please others or avoid conflict. Yet, when intimacy leaves her with feelings of doubt, fear, or unease, ignoring those feelings only deepens their power. Awareness begins by pausing and acknowledging, I feel anxious. I feel uncertain. I feel cherished. I feel safe. I feel used. Naming the feeling removes its power to control her silently. It takes what is hidden and brings it into the open, where it can be understood. Without awareness, negative feelings live in the shadows, quietly steering her thoughts and decisions without her realizing why she reacts the way she does. The second layer of awareness involves asking deeper questions about the source of those emotions. Is the fear she feels coming from something her partner did or said, or is it a reflection of past wounds that have not yet healed? Is the regret rooted in her own values? Or is it a story she has adopted from cultural expectations that don't truly belong to her? Is the sense of being cherished a result of her partner's genuine love? Or is it something she is hoping for without solid evidence? This kind of self-inquiry allows her to separate what is real in the present moment from what is borrowed from the past or projected into the future. It is this discernment that empowers her to choose her response rather than being swept away by automatic patterns of thought. Choice comes into play the moment awareness is present. Once a woman recognizes what she feels and why she feels it, she has the ability to decide how to move forward. She may choose to communicate her emotions honestly, expressing her need for reassurance, respect, or clarity. She may choose to release the fear and embrace the love she feels, allowing herself to fully enjoy the intimacy without guilt. Or she may choose to step back, to protect her energy, to realign with her values if she realizes that the situation does not honor her worth. The key is that choice transforms her from a passive receiver of experiences into an active creator of her destiny. She is no longer at the mercy of her feelings. She becomes the one who directs them toward a higher outcome. See, awareness and choice also break the cycle of disempowerment that many women fall into. Without them, intimacy can feel like something that just happens to her, something that controls her emotions and her future whether she likes it or not. With them, intimacy becomes a conscious decision, an experience she participates in with full knowledge of its emotional and spiritual impact. Instead of feeling trapped by regret or consumed by fear, she can choose to see the experience as a lesson, see, a stepping stone, or even a gift that reveals something important about herself. Choice gives her the freedom to redefine the meaning of the moment. She can choose to see it as growth rather than loss, as strength rather than weakness. See, as a reminder of her power rather than a symbol of her vulnerability. The more she practices awareness and choice, the stronger her inner voice becomes. Instead of allowing old stories of unworthiness or fear to dominate, she begins to speak to herself with clarity and conviction. She learns to say, I feel this, but I am not this. I see this, but I can choose differently. I recognize this, but I decide what it will mean for my life. See, this kind of self-talk reshapes her identity from the inside out. It builds resilience, confidence, and the ability to walk through intimacy with both openness and wisdom. She no longer depends entirely on the actions of another to determine how she feels. Her awareness anchors her, and her choices guide her forward. In truth, see, awareness and choice are not just tools for managing emotions after intimacy, they are the very foundations of personal freedom. They allow a woman to rise above the automatic reactions of guilt, fear, or regret, and instead step into the higher energy of empowerment. They remind her that no matter what has happened, she has the ability to shape the meaning it carries, to decide how it will influence her, and to direct the energy of the experience toward her growth rather than her downfall. When she embraces this truth, she begins to understand that every feeling is an opportunity, every thought is a crossroad, and every choice is a brushstroke in the painting of her destiny. Redirection toward destiny begins when a woman understands that no feeling, no experience, and no setback has the final say in her life. What often seems like the end of her strength can, in truth, be the beginning of her transformation. Intimacy carries immense emotional weight, and when the aftermath brings confusion, heaviness, or doubt, it is easy for her to believe that her story has been written by that single experience. But destiny is not written by one moment, it is written by the choices made after the moment. Redirection is the art of taking whatever energy she has absorbed, whether it feels heavy or light, and consciously channeling it into a higher path that supports her growth. It is about recognizing that even the emotions that hurt have the power to serve her when she decides to use them as fuel for her future instead of chains that hold her back. A woman who learns redirection does not allow negative emotions to harden into permanent beliefs about herself. She may feel regret, but she refuses to identify herself as someone unworthy. She may feel fear, but she chooses not to live her life defined by that fear. She may feel doubt, but she decides to use that doubt as motivation to seek clarity and demand more respect from the people she allows close to her. Every painful feeling becomes a signpost, pointing her toward the work she must do to align with her true purpose. This shift requires courage because it is easier to fall into the trap of believing that intimacy has damaged her or that her choices have ruined her path. But destiny is flexible, and redirection is proof that she can always realign. The power of redirection lies in perspective. Two women can experience the same emotions after intimacy. Yet one may spiral downward into despair while the other rises upward into strength. The difference is not in what happened, but in how they interpret it. Perspective transforms pain into wisdom, regret into resolve, and fear into awareness. When a woman chooses to see her experiences as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks, she begins to walk a path that leads her closer to her destiny rather than further away from it. She begins to understand that nothing she has gone through was wasted because every emotion, every choice, and every lesson has equipped her for what lies ahead. This redirection is not about ignoring or denying what she feels. On the contrary, it is about fully acknowledging her feelings and then consciously deciding how they will shape her. If she feels hurt, she allows herself to feel it, but she then chooses to use that hurt as a reminder to never settle for less than respect. If she feels guilt, she acknowledges it, but she then chooses to let it sharpen her awareness so she aligns her choices with her values. If she feels love and closeness, she cherishes it, but she also uses it as a foundation to build even deeper trust and connection. Every feeling becomes a tool, and with each tool, she builds a stronger version of herself. Redirection also requires her to shift her focus from what she cannot control to what she can. She cannot control how another person acts, what they feel, or what they intend, but she can control how she responds, what she learns, and how she grows. This simple truth gives her power back. Instead of waiting for someone else to validate her worth, she begins to validate herself. Instead of hoping someone else will respect her boundaries, she establishes and enforces them. Instead of wishing for love from the outside, she begins to cultivate love within. This is how she changes the course of her destiny, not by erasing the past, but by reclaiming her power in the present. As she practices redirection, she begins to see patterns in her own journey. She notices that what once made her weak now makes her strong, that what once silenced her now gives her a voice, that what once seemed like a mistake now feels like a turning point. The very feelings that once threatened to break her become the reason she rises higher. Destiny is not something handed to her. It is something she creates each time she chooses to redirect energy away from despair and toward empowerment. See, with every decision to rise instead of sink, to learn instead of regret, to grow instead of withdraw, she writes a new chapter in her story. Redirection toward destiny is also deeply spiritual. It reminds her that there is meaning in everything she experiences, even if she cannot see it in the moment. What feels like a setback may actually be a setup for growth. What feels like loss may be clearing space for greater gain. See, what feels like rejection may be protection from a path not meant for her. When she learns to trust this process, she no longer views negative feelings as enemies, but as messengers guiding her back into alignment with her higher self. She begins to walk with faith that her destiny is bigger than her current emotions, and that every redirection is carrying her closer to the life